Steve was homesick for 4 days, and somewhere around day 3, I felt something I was completely unprepared to feel. I wanted my space back. And then I felt guilty, because here's the thing. He needed a nurse. He needed empathy. He needed soup and somebody checking in on him. And I was sitting here in my own head, struggling. That's not a Steve problem. That is totally a me problem, and I know it, which somehow made it even worse.
What I didn't realize at the time was that those 4 days were exposing a problem Steve and I had never planned for. In a few months, we'll be traveling together full time after retirement. We spent all this time planning the finances, the destinations, the logistics. We never talked about what being together 24 hours a day might actually look like.
Here's the thing. We drove to work together every single day for years. We ate lunch together. We genuinely like each other's company, like actually like it. So I did not see this coming, period. And what scared me wasn't the 4 days. It was what the 4 days showed me about what's coming next. Because in a few months, we're going to be slow traveling together. We're going to be together all the time, in cars, on ships, in hotel rooms, in places where there are no corners to retreat to. And I realized sitting in this apartment, we have planned for almost everything for this retirement life, except for that. I've heard people say they don't want to retire because they don't want to spend much time in their house with their spouse all day long. They love them too much to do that. And I always thought that was a little over dramatic. I don't think that anymore. And if you're planning to do this with someone, really planning it, I want to ask you something. Have you actually talked about what 24/7 looks like? Not the destinations, not the budget, the actual, how are we going to share the same space all day, every day conversation? We hadn't, not really. Here's the thing about our situation that made this hit a little differently. Steve is still working right now, which means most days he's out, either working out, hiking, biking, and I'm here in this apartment, filming, creating, preparing for our future. And I didn't realize until those 4 days how much I had built my entire creative life around that window. The alone time wasn't a bonus, it was my whole infrastructure. I film here in this space. This energy, when he's home, even when he's just quietly existing in another room, something shifts, and I feel it. I tried filming somewhere else during those days, and it didn't work. It was a different location, different setup, and my energy was completely off, and I saw it on the camera. I came home, and so there I was, stuck. I couldn't do the creative work, couldn't focus on the to-do list, couldn't find my footing in my own home. And Steve, bless him, needed exactly nothing from me except food and some grace, which I was struggling to give because I was too busy being mentally tangled up in my own head. If you've ever been in a situation where someone needed the best version of you and you were having a very hard time accessing her, you know exactly what I mean. That was me for 4 days. And the guilt of that was its own thing entirely. So there I was, couldn't film, couldn't focus. Steve's on the couch, I'm in my head, and I did what any reasonable person would do in that situation. I texted a friend and asked if I could borrow a dog. Not joking, I needed pet therapy for both of us, honestly. Steve got a warm dog on his lap, and I got 2 hours of thinking about something that wasn't my own mental spiral. And it worked, temporarily, but it almost made me laugh at myself a little because that's where I was, borrowing someone else's dog just to lower the temperature in my own brain. And honestly, sometimes that's the move. You do what you have to do. So after that dog went home, I did what I do when I don't know what to do. I sat with it. I had an honest conversation with Steve about my spiral and apologized for not being myself and for what he needed in that moment. I didn't try to fix it or push through it or pretend it wasn't even happening. I just let myself feel uncomfortable and started asking the bigger question underneath it. What does this mean for us in the future? For our future travel plans? For the life we're building? Because if 4 days did this to me, what happens on a month or two while we're in full-time travel? And here's where I landed. We were not totally unprepared people. We have researched and planned for retirement, but we have never once sat down and talked about alone time, about what I need to be creative, and about what Steve needs when he eventually stops working and we're both home all day with nowhere to be. He always says I have an uncanny ability to know just when he has opened up a book to read, and I barge in and say, "What you doing?" And I am wanting to chit chat. We need to talk about how we can both show up for each other in a way that allows each other to recharge. But instead, we talk about Antarctica, we talk about Southeast Asia, we talk about the hikes he wants to do, we talk about the logistics of full-time travel. We've never talked about how to actually be together all the time. And I think, and this is just me being honest with you, I think that might be one of the most important conversations we haven't had yet. I know this about myself now that I didn't fully know before. I need creative space the way some people need sleep. It's not negotiable. It's not a preference. It's just how I function. And I'm not ashamed of that, but I do need to stop assuming it'll just figure itself out, because it won't, not without a conversation. I also know, and this one's harder for me to say, that I was not my best self those 4 days. Steve needed a good nurse and got a distracted wife. And I'm not beating myself up about it, but I'm also not pretending it didn't happen either. That's kind of the whole point of this channel. The messy middle, not just the good parts. And if you're sitting there thinking, I'd probably be the same way, good, me too, because now let's both go have that conversation we've been avoiding. Steve retires in 6 months, which means we have plenty of time to figure this out before it stops being theoretical and starts being a normal Tuesday. I'll keep you posted on how that conversation goes. But before I go, if you're nearing retirement or considering full-time travel with a partner, have you had that 24/7 conversation yet? I want to know I'm not the only one who sort of has skipped that part. Tell me in the comments below. If you're interested in retirement, slow travel, and figuring out what comes next after a career ends, hit that subscribe button and follow along. We're making plenty of mistakes as we go, but maybe together we can be a little better prepared. Thanks for watching Someday Chasers. See you in the next adventure, and don't forget to check out this other video. Hey, if you made it this far in the video, thank you for sticking around, and please don't judge me too much. I am a terrible nurse, always have been. Steve is not surprised. But I do want to clarify that we just moved from a very big house to a very small apartment, and I have one tiny room I can hide in. Yes, I have one room. But don't worry, I know you're all Team Steve. I'm Team Steve. Always will be. And if there's ever a good guy and a bad guy, Steve is always the good guy. End of story. So thank you for not judging me too harshly, though I need to be judged. I get it. There are things I need to work on. But this event helped me to kind of think about the things that we aren't talking about. And so thank you for listening. Thank you if you're a subscriber. Thank you. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify, I am Team Steve too.